Hi, everybody. I'm Ralph Salmins, and thank you for joining me for this masterclass for Sabian. I'm very happy to be with you. I'm going to talk about some of the things that really interest me when I'm talking about what I do and how I do it, whether I'm playing in the studio or whether I'm playing with live bands on stage or even at home having a bit of fun. Any of those things, I'm still thinking about the same things. So, what I try and do is to focus in upon what I'm looking for and what we're all looking for as the secret, the magic ingredient to try and improve what we do and make ourselves better drummers, better musicians. And so, what I title this little thing that I'm talking about is Improve Your Groove. Hope it helps. Hope you find it interesting. So, the first thing I'd like to talk about is, to me, the most important thing. What is that magic ingredient that makes a human response positive, that people like what you're playing, people love hearing what you're doing? What is that works well, that people say, yeah, this is great, I love that groove? When you hear your favorite groups play, what is it that really makes it exciting? And for me, that secret magic ingredient is timing. Timing, super duper important. So, uh, the human ear, the human brain can perceive a very, very tiny amount of difference in timings, and I think that's what makes the subtlety in timing on when we're listening to drumming, when we're listening to music. Quite often in the past, when I've been recording things on Logic or Pro Tools, um, if we move things around, sometimes you can move things by just a few ticks on your DAW, and then suddenly you'll find, wow, you can really tell the difference. Maybe move that by 20 ticks. That will be 1/240th of a beat is a tick. And then eventually, I've found in many cases, we start hearing it when we move it just one, maybe 5 ticks, 2 ticks, 1 tick. You can hear the difference. Your ears really get attuned to it. So it's really subtle what people can hear. And I think it's important to hone in on that and develop the timing, a sense of timing, to make your playing really comfortable and really groovy. So, what I'm talking about is metronomic time, really not just some sort of nebulous concept about whether the snare's back or so on. It's really, first of all, getting excellent metronomic time. So, that time that's satisfying, enjoyable, what I call consonance and dissonance in almost like in pitch, when you've got something that's a dissonant chord or something that's out of tune, or whether it's really in tune and it's a beautiful chord, it sounds really comfortable. Like when a baddie comes on, you get a dissonant chord, and when you've got a beautiful love scene, you get something that's consonant, a beautiful, uh, lovely sounding chord. And the same can apply for rhythmic, uh, what I call rhythmic consonance and dissonance. So, how are we going to get it? Well, the first thing is to remember that it's not just something that you're given. It's not just an amazing sort of God-given talent. Wow, this guy's amazing. You can develop this. You need to work on this. You need to develop it, and you need to practice it. So, first thing is developing an internal reference point for the time. So, how do we do that? Well, internal reference point just means you knowing where the groove is. So, what we do is we use a click. We're playing along with the click as best we can, and then the more you can do that, that will get you used to playing along with a click, so that you just start naturally falling into metronomic time, and you will just get used to it. Most commercial music, as you know, is recorded to click, is often played live to click, and you don't need to do that to feel good. But if you've got a really strong sense of timing that's developed, I think that will work better in terms of getting your feel as good as possible. Just knowing when it's pushing, knowing when it's dragging, and all of these things. And, you know, it doesn't matter. Having fun is really important, but this is just a concept that we're developing. So what do we do? Well, practicing with a click is the way forward. And I advocate doing something that really I call it, so I think Steve Gadd once said, make friends with the click. Just get a click track, put it on, and then play along with it. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to just do my little click exercise, and I'm going to talk to you while I'm playing and hopefully explain what I'm going to do. So I'm going to add a click here at 80 BPM. There it is. And what we're going to do is the first thing we're going to do is it's important to just listen to the click. So listen to it here. And now we're going to sing along with the click and subdivide that so it makes you feel it. So here it is. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and so on. All right. Next thing, it's good to get a brush because it's not too loud, so we can play along with that nice and easy. So let's just take a brush and let's play that groove. Straight eighth notes, straight quavers. Here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Maybe a little accent on 2 and 4 if you like, just to make it feel good. And just get yourself settled in with it as best you can, really. We're just playing along for fun. Think of it that way. But don't forget that the click is boss. There it is. So once you're really comfy with that and you've got it going, then let's add some bass drum to that. Here we go. The important thing is we're just going to play a straight groove. For the moment, we're not going to change it. Just keep it straight. Then you don't need to think about what you're playing. And we're just focusing in on playing nice and in time. Once you're comfy with that, add the snare, maybe a cross-stick backbeat. And just take a little bit of time to fall in with it, get comfortable, make friends with it. Unless we're relaxed, we're really not making music, so try to stay relaxed. That's it. That's it. And now it's feeling nice. We've made friends, got used to that. That's feeling great. Once you're used to it, then you might want to try a couple of things to just see what the effect is like when you either push or pull on the click. If you either in front of it or behind it. So one of the things that can make the music uncomfortable is when you're in front of it. So let's just try pushing it and see what it feels like when we're playing in front of the beat. Here we go. So I'm going to go center. Now I'm going to push in front. Just a little ahead. That's pretty uncomfortable, eh? So, back to the center. Okay, I'm going to push ahead again. Back to the middle. Now listen to the effect of what we get when we drop it back. Here we go. Behind. Actually, when the snare goes behind, it kind of sounds... It sounds good, I think. I like to put the snare behind. Kick in the middle, snare slightly behind. It's got a really nice effect. We drop the whole thing behind. Let's see what that sounds like. Back to the middle. It kind of sounds like, I don't know, I'm in a New Orleans group and we're just getting swampy with it. Let's go back again. It doesn't sound so bad, but if you're making a record, you've really got to make sure you're in the middle there like that. It's an interesting effect, isn't it? Okay, so once you've done that, next thing to do is to just relax, get yourself in the groove, and then really try some other things like a different pattern, maybe. There's a different bass drum pattern, so we're varying the patterns. Maybe add some hats or 16s. Add hats. Maybe just take some brushes and completely change the feel. Maybe we're going to do something like a ballad. There's a jazz ballad. Triplet 1, 2, triplet 3. Now let's halve that. Double it again. And here's double that. We're just changing the feels around now, whatever you want to do. Double that again. Let's get into a little samba. And then just try some other stuff, have some fun. Try some different stuff. Break it up. really try to mess around and really push your boundaries. Do something that is edgy and perhaps not so easy for you, so you can just develop that relationship with a click. And then after you've done that, you've made friends with it, come back to just a nice simple groove. That's it. It's so relaxing. There it is. That's the click. Okay. So that is our click exercise. Now, how do we improve it within the music to find independence and to play things that are going to be useful as a commercial drummer? Well, the one book that I've come across that I highly recommend to everybody for groove drummers is The New Breed by Gary Chester. If you haven't come across it, I really recommend that you do so. He was a fantastic studio drummer. He played on lots and lots of hit records. Everyone like between Van Morrison, Aretha Franklin, lots of people played on lots of great things. And he's got a beautiful book with a great groove concept, and it's kind of an independence book, if you don't know it, for groove playing, but really excellent. He advocates using remote hi-hat, and yeah, he's a fantastic teacher. I think he was Dave Weckles' teacher, certainly Danny Gottlieb's teacher, and a lot of people have studied with him, and I know a lot of people have done that book. And that book advocates singing the click, and then also when you've got systems, he has systems where you play a groove and then you sing the sound of the instrument. So you might get a groove going, and then you sing the sound of the bass drum on that particular groove. So when you sing it, it really goes in, you can really feel it. It's a great book. The other thing that I really highly recommend for a great way of developing, and it's something that I've been developing for some years, and that is to record yourself. This is one of Gary Chester's things I know, and I know he encouraged Dave Weckl to mic himself up and get a great sound and listen to the sound he was making, and he does do that. I remember when I first heard Dave, the sound that he was making was absolutely amazing. And it still is, and I'm sure some of that awareness comes from just miking yourself up and recording yourself. Now you can do that with one mic, two mics, three mics, or a few mics, but it's fairly easy to record drums these days, and it's fairly inexpensive. If there's any way you can afford to do that, I strongly recommend doing it. I do that with a lot of my teaching. I have students come to me, and then we play tracks together, and then we sit down and we listen to them. And it's a really great objective way of learning. I highly, highly recommend it. Play-alongs are a fantastic thing in that process. A great book that I use is Groove Essentials by Tommy Igoe. Excellent book. There's a lot of really good groove stuff in there. That it's quite the groove. What I like about some of the play-alongs in that book are the simple grooves. They're very easy to, they're not over-cluttered, and they're easy to hear what you're doing in terms of the groove, whether you're in front or behind, or what you're doing with the groove. So I highly recommend that book. And then there are some fantastic play-alongs out there. First of all, in the actual real world, if you want to play along with some great records that don't have drums on, I highly recommend the Nat Cole Trio records, simply because the Nat Cole Trio did not contain drums. So that is a really good thing to play along with, because Nat and the guys had absolutely incredible feel, and for jazz it's just beautiful. It's a really ideal thing to play along with. If not, if you're playing some jazz play-alongs, you can play along with pretty much anything, even if there are drums there. And I often use in my teaching two different sets of play-alongs that are very user-friendly. Um, one of them is a thing called Session Band, which is an app that has got looped play-alongs, and you can switch in and switch out the rhythm sections and play along with some great players, which is just fantastic. And they've got a session band in lots and lots of different styles. They're totally amazing. And also the one of the things that I love using to play with students and for clinics and stuff is the Mincer Big Band app, which is put out by Peter Erskine with a real proper band, the Bob Mincer Big Band, and you get real charts and the play-alongs. It's a totally amazing app and such great experience for learning big bands, so it's something I highly recommend. Other than that, there are some amazing resources on the Vic Firth website, which is totally fantastic. It has some play-along downloads, and one of the other things that I use is some guys have got books out, and some of the best play-along books out there are Dave Weckels. They're just stunning. They're a little more complicated and busy, but they are just great and really inspiring and fun. So I recommend those two. Also, Gordon Goodwin has got a couple of big band books out, which are just fantastic. And so what you're going to get with a play-along is you're going to get something that is you can record yourself and hear yourself back in a realistic situation. And so what you're going to be joining up is joining the perception of what you think you sound like with what you actually sound like. And sometimes they can be two different things. So it's really important to hear back what you sound like. So you're like, oh, right, okay, I didn't realize that's... Students often say to me, oh, wow, that was a little bit, that's kind of loose, isn't it? I'd say, yeah. And they'd say, oh, yeah, it's not that tight with the click, is it? I'd say, well, no. And just by hearing themselves back and then going back to sit down at the drums and play that piece of music again with those things borne in mind, playing tighter, being aware of the click, can make a huge difference. And in fact, they do make a huge difference. One of the things that I like to talk about, a very, very important thing that is really kind of what I call tweaking a drummer to sound great, is the balance that you're getting between the bass drum, snare drum, and hi-hat, and the rest of the kit when you're playing. Some of the things that I like to do when I'm playing groove music and I'm using my right foot on the bass drum for simple groove stuff, I love to bury the beater like that. I'm using my leg and I'm burying the beater, which gives it a really solid, relaxed thud. If I'm playing quiet stuff like jazz maybe, or any quiet Latin maybe, then I would come off it. That's perfectly okay. You wouldn't want to play heel up for that sort of stuff. Now, while I'm talking about jazz, one of the other things that a lot of people struggle with at the beginning is when they're playing the hi-hats on 2 and 4, is getting a really staccato chick from the hats. The way I do that is I bounce my heel on the pedal in time with the music, like that, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I just give it a little release chick on every, it's like a little stamp, but the hi-hats are hardly released, and that's how it comes out. So even when we're playing brushes, we get a really staccato chick, so it's like boom, chick, 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 and that is with my heel up. So I'm getting a real easy chick, no effort from my leg. I'm not having to try. I'm bouncing in time with the music, so it's easy. And that's a really nice way of getting an easy chick. It's actually, in jazz, probably the hardest working limb on your body. Well, certainly out of the 2 feet anyway. Yeah, so I greatly recommend that. So one of the things, just talking about balance, is just shoring up the balance, burying the beater so that you've got a really comfortable beat. Just real easy, really try and be very intuitive with it. Don't overfeel it. Just try and make it easy. Just a simple leg movement. Same with your left hand on the snare drum. Try and think that you're holding a salmon and you're slapping that salmon on a cardboard box. Slap, nice and easy. Nice, fat, relaxed sound. And I'm often trying to get myself to be more relaxed with that, so I can get a really relaxed sound. It does make a difference whether you're playing cross stick, or quite often I change round and I play the butt end in the middle of the drum, which is great for ballads. Just a nice relaxed beat, which is really easy and it sounds good recorded. So with the balance thing, it's just a matter of getting these well balanced. Now, don't forget in groove music that you've got a kind of a pendulum feel going on there. And with that, when we're feeling a groove, you need to feel the bass drum and the snare drum equally. Boom, ga, ga, ga. It's got to be grooving from either side. If you're missing the snare, it'll be like oh, not enough. Oh, and an engineer will want to bring the snare up. If you're delivering a balanced kick and snare at the same level, and when I look at the levels on my DAW when I'm recording, we usually get them so they come up to the same level. And if you're doing that, set them so they come to the same level. Play them so that they're equally strong. The hi-hat is really in the middle of that, and it shouldn't be too loud. A lot of people are tempted to make the hi-hat too loud, but don't forget, if you're playing too much, too strongly on the hi-hat, then that is going to be something that will, well, first of all, it will tire you out, but the other thing is, with the hi-hat, when you're recording a drum set, a hi-hat is very easy to bring up in volume, but it's extremely difficult. You actually can't get rid of it because you're very close to the overheads. They're just there, and you're close to a lot of other mics too. So if you drop the level of the hi-hats, you'll find that as you start to drop the hi-hats, the volume of the hi-hats, the kick and the snare drums start to sound sweeter. And I really recommend trying to do that if you can, because that will give you something that is really balanced and feels good. So we've got time, just to recap, we have got time, developing metronomic time, playing with the click, making friends with the click, being a little adventurous and playing around the click, and play-alongs. Some really great books and play-alongs to go with, and then balancing. Probably a couple of other things to wrap up, I would say, is if you can use the molar technique and use your wrist, not the forearm, it will help you. And concentrate and be consistent. Consistency is extremely important. Concentration is important, but be relaxed. Be as relaxed as you can behind the drum set. It's extremely important to just be relaxed and feel good and enjoy yourself. Don't forget, if you're having fun, everyone else is having fun. So try and do that. And finally, just relax and trust your ears and have a good time. That's the end of my little bit here for Sabian. I'm going to wrap up, and thank you for listening.